So this is going to be a bit more of an unscripted one because I haven't actually done these ones in a while. So, last weekend we decided to stop judging and actually enter an OTS Championship, and we did terrible. Absolutely terrible. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter in any way, shape or form, because the proud moment for me is I finally got Marcus to stop going to locals. He went to an OTS Championship with Orcust, and he did better than me with Orcust. My god, what the hell is this format content? So, what you will see on the screen right now is Marcus's Orcust list that we brought to the OTS Championship, and yeah, it paid off. It paid off because we cooked on this for quite some time. Like, we had cooked for like 2 weeks straight. Originally, we were on Striker Orcust. Then I decided to waste £400 on the tins and only come out with 2 Imsetis and 2 King Sarks. So yeah, we got those parts added to it, and then we have the cash package. Then we realised Fenrir isn't as good going first, so we can put Unicorn. Couldn't find Theseosis because God only knows where it was. Then read Theseosis and realised it's terrible in the deck. Couldn't find a Wraith Soth out of the God knows how many tins that we bought, so we didn't play the Wraith Soth. We went for Birth instead, and it then just led to this amalgamation of stuff, which was pretty good, except for one problem. We turned up to the event. Marcus turned up with like the skin of his teeth with 20 minutes remaining to write out his deck list and everything. The top mad lad that he was, he got me to write his deck list as he was driving over there in the car, and thankfully, since we'd cooked on the list that long, I actually knew most of his main and extra. A little bit of his side, but we got like 2/3 of it written out just from sheer memory. I'm not going to do as much of a match report on my thing because mine was just solid. It was terrible. We did awful because we haven't played for ages, but I'm more going on Marcus once here because proud of the top lad, proud of him. So the idea that we had with the Orcust match is that we would play so much gas that if our opponent dropped the hand trap, we just played through it. As in, if we had an Orcust plus body, it didn't matter what the body was, whether it was something from King Sark, whether it was from the Grisu summoning the token, or if it was from the Cash Tira lineup. We just kept ploughing through the field as if nothing ever happened. And pure gas worked. Mainly because in the first round, Marcus told me this, the greatest words he'd ever heard from his opponent, they had picked up a Harp Horror and asked what does it do. Then picked up a Symbol Skeleton to do the same thing. Then Nightmare Orcust. And it just got better from there every time his opponent kept on asking what these cards do. Marcus is just sitting like, oh yeah, it's just toss format. Greatest format to ever exist. And yeah, I'm just gonna not tell him the combos of my deck. I'm just gonna explain what it says on the card and nothing else. And the amount of games that he had won because his opponent thought, oh, this is Horus. We must hit the King Sark. And constantly forgetting that Babel is there. And then wondering, oh, well, all these Orcusts are quick effects and that, so we'll just ignore the Babel, and they just don't read it. So at least 2 of his games he actually won because his opponent didn't read Babel and just automatically assumed that all the Orcusts were just quick effect monsters, and that Babel didn't do anything because it didn't activate an effect on the field, which tip my hat to you, Marcus. It's the great thing of let your opponent pick up your cards, read the cards, and then not read them whatsoever. But yeah, that was kind of most of it for him. I can't remember all of his matchups, but the cooking idea for it was that in the lineup for the deck, we would play 3 Unicorn and 3 Fenrir with the Birth. And the idea behind it is that we want to if we open up the Fenrir, it's fine. We can just search another Fenrir for follow-up later. But if we open up Unicorn, we have Birth, so then we have a free body that comes back and we rip stuff from our opponent's extra deck. But we're playing it with the idea that there is going to be a load of Fire King because it's a cheaper deck to play. cheap by Yu-Gi-Oh stands, and that there would be a bunch of other things where they play like one-offs in the extra deck, and you resolve Unicorn twice, it can really hurt an opponent. We got the idea mainly from testing it at locals, but you, as Marcus put it, you don't really notice what it's like until you actually go to OTS, because unfortunately our locals, the store has reopened, for those of you who are wondering. Unfortunately, Geek Retreat Halifax died off, so we will be rebranding at some other point later down the line. But we have a new locals, Shadow Dust. Shameless plug will be somewhere in the video at some point. And events there are kind of good, but they had the locals issue of everyone knows what everyone's playing. We know how to play each other. So when it came to him prepping for the OTS, I'd just kind of given him the idea of like, you can prep in two ways. You can prep for this OTS is going to have loads and loads of rogue, and then you just have to hope for the best that you draw what you need to draw. Or you prep for the meta and then hope that you can just cruise control your way to top 4 constantly and only have to deal with that. Yeah, Plan B didn't work because there was Fire King, Ricker, Flu. There was someone playing a Melodious Pearly deck, Pendulum, and a bunch of other stuff. So yeah, Plan B. Thankfully, he didn't go with Plan B. I went with Plan B, and my side deck was half dead, and his was perfect. It achieved every single goal that we'd set out to do, which was basically Boral Sword can win you games, Zoroboros can win you games, but most of all, our opponent doesn't read Dingrisu ever. The amount of times that he would have free protection with Ding or free sending with Ding just to deal with problematic stuff was just great. I think the best part of it was his opponent had even lead him, and if memory serves right, he'd before end of main he'd gone IP to link off stuff to make an SP. His opponent even leads him, he banishes SP and another thing, keep the Babel, and then just starts popping off from there. In one of his other matchups, it was just a case of just war of attrition, in the sense of he constantly keeps shuffling stuff back with Galatea so that you'd have constant resources, and he just went, you know what, I'm going to die, but I won't die until my opponent kills me. And miraculously, by the grace of God, of constantly looping a Dingrisu to protect stuff and Orcust stuff to summon back from the grave, he eventually won, because eventually that 2/6 beat stick was able to punch his opponent in the face, which is something that is just, it's just beautiful when you see it. It's just great. Yeah. So into a bit more of the reasoning why we actually played everything. So I'll go through the entire deck. Completely ignore the side. The side is left over from when we were theory crafting this long time ago when we played Adventure and other terrible cards in the deck. So the list goes as 1 Armageddon Knight, 3 Ash Blossom, 1 Dark Grepher, 3 Veiler, 2 Grisu, 2 Inseti, 1 Happy, 3 Kashtira Fenrir, 3 Unicorn, 3 Nibiru, 2 Symbol Skeleton, 2 Harp, and 1 Nightmare. That's all the monsters. Then for the spells, we play a Foolish, 3 Forbidden Droplet, 1 Birth, 2 King Sar, 1 Babel, 2 Return, 2 Talents, 3 Infinite Impermanence, and that rounds off all the main deck. And then for the extra deck, we play the 2 Dingrisu, 1 Zeus, 1 Typhon, 1 Zombie Vampire, 1 Boral Sword Dragon, 1 Dark Charmer, 2 Galatea, 1 IP, 1 Unicorn, Link Spider, Longer Suit, SP, and the Zoroboros. Now, to go into the packages itself, we played originally 3 Grisu and 1 Harp because we wanted the Grisu more than the Harp, but then in testing we came to realise that if the Grisu gets hand trapped by anything, you don't have access to your Orcust package, so we'd rather have the Harp than the Grisu, because since everything else is like pure bodies, as in the King's Arc is an extra body, Kashtira Fenrir is another body, Unicorn's another body. Opening the Harp is actually better, because if you open Unicorn Harp, you have full combo, plus the Unicorn comes back. If you open Harp plus Imseti, you have full combo because you can just ditch off the King's Harp and get more stuff. And that was basically the idea behind it. So that's why we cut the Grisu from 3 to 2 because we want the Harp more. Armageddon Knight and Dark Grapher. We did it originally with the Rota, but I think we got to the point where we realised that Rota isn't as good into the Armageddon Knight or Dark Grapher because you normal them, and then they basically say Ash me now, and once that gets Ash, that's it. Your combo's over. Unless you can get Orcust stuff in the graveyard with Orchestrated Return or King's Harp. That's it. Your turn's just over. You passed on nothing. So we are thinking of actually cutting that for a King's Harp as well as an Imseti. The only reason why we only play the 2 King's Harp and 2 Imseti is because we only own 2 King's Harp and 2 Imseti. Yeah, £400 worth on boxes. It's a great investment. Anyways, we originally played them because back in the original Orcust thing, it was really, really good, and we thought that with less hand traps floating around the format, ditching, well, summoning the Armageddon Knight or the Grapher would actually be good, but it didn't come up as often, and every game 2 and 3 you just sided it out anyway, so because it was just terrible. As for the Horus package, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. There were games where he didn't even need to do Orcust stuff, where he would just go King Sark Revive, King Sark ditch the stuff for Happy, as well as Imseti, special out the Fenrir, bring back Happy, bring back Imseti, and just kill your opponent from there. That was just some beautiful games. Very little Orcust, he was playing more or less Kashtira with a small Orcust package. Everything else, I think, is pretty solid. We opted for droplets because it was discard fodder. It was just ultimate discard fodder. It gets rid of stuff out your hand, it gets your opponent's field, and then you can just make a free Zeus if you do it properly. With Grisu into Galatea, you can just go ding into Zeus straight away and then start to Dark Lock yourself afterwards, which is pretty good. It wasn't a play that Marcus did that often because it was just one of the things that kind of both slipped our mind of we can make a Zeus before we Dark Lock ourselves. But yeah, that's fine. There is also bits where Nibiru's got this great combo with Orcust cards where basically, because Babel turns them all into quick effects, you can go Nib Chainlink 1, Orcust Chainlink 2, tribute the entire board, your opponent doesn't get a Nibiru or a token, you have all your stuff still in the graveyard, so then you can just go like Symbol Revive, Dingrisu, and then just have free protection, which is beautiful. But the main is actually perfectly fine the way it is. We aren't going to change too much to it. We are going to Castleford. I believe it is next weekend. Or Travelling Man, depending which store it is. And how far it is to get there. But overall, I think the deck actually performed quite well. And again, tip my hat to you, Marcus. Well done. You did better than I did. I played this game a lot longer and I just kind of whiffed everything else because this is what happens when you judge most of your formats. Things don't go well, so yeah. But hopefully we're going to hard theory on this a bit more. We will give you a more up-to-date version after next week, hopefully, when things have changed, things have arrived in the post. Hopefully we can find that third Orchestrated Return, because Return is just a really good card. We are going to dabble with the idea of 3 Grisu, 3 Harp, or if we're just going to play the 3 Harp with 1 Grisu, it's just something that we need to go back and forwards on, because Grisu is great because it gives you an extra body, but the idea is, since we have 10 cards that make a body on their own, Grisu isn't really needed all too much, I guess. But yeah, if you guys have any suggestions on how to make this better, I'd love to hear them, because this deck is actually quite fun. I'll be signing out. Peace.